Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Board meeting. Today is August 15th, 2024. I would like to call the meeting open at 4:35. Kyla, would you mind please doing the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Bolmerick. Commissioner Cinco.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Madsen. Commissioner Venkatesh.
Here.
Commissioner Swinson. Commissioner Scarborough. And then Commissioner O'Rourke. See if she can pop up here. Good. All right. Then ACDHH staff president, Sherry Collins. Carmen Smith. Sue Kay.
I'm present. It doesn't let me start my video.
Okay, I'll fix that for you. Nikki Suka. Victoria Vaughn. Ricky Gonsalski. Cameo Hunsaker. Myself, Kyla Dalton Nava, and then we have ADOA representative Stella Cunningham. She's here. Right. And Brian Westerberg.
Present.
And then our AAG, Elise Phelan.
Yes.
Stella going to be on the call.
Okay. I think we're good.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kyla. Now, the item agendas. May I have an approval for the minutes for May 16th, 2024? Do I have a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes?
This is Virginia. I motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Thompson,
And
do I hear a second?
Commissioner Scarborough, I second.
A second from Commissioner Scarborough. Next is the chair's report. So we have an awful lot to cover today, and I appreciate everyone making the time to attend. Before we get started, I'd like to kick off the meeting with an introduction to the new board members. We have Sarah, I apologize, Olmarkich, who is our new hard of hearing representative. Yay. We also have Lisa Swenson, our new interpreter representative. Yay, hello. Welcome. Welcome to our new board members. We're very excited to have you. Glad to have you live.
Commissioner Scarborough, I second.
Commissioner Scarborough. Next is the chair's report. So we have an awful lot to cover today, and I appreciate everyone making the time to attend. Before we get started, I'd like to kick off the meeting with an introduction to the new board members. Thank you. We have Sarah.
Yes, Joni needs to turn her sound off. It says Joni is talking.
Thank you so much. It happens. It happens. It's no big deal. I mentioned earlier that it's an exciting time here because we're on the search for a new executive director. So as you are aware, Sherry Collins will be retiring next January. Wow, after 26 years too. It's been really some tough shoes to fill. But it'll be good to have fresh faces, a change of service for the community. So we're so grateful to Sherry Collins for her dedication, her hard work to this organization, and all her years. And all the people on the committee have been involved with the search, from our ADOA personnel. I'm sorry. So we are establishing a personnel committee with the assistance from the ADOA. Representative tonight is Brian, and we want to hear more about what's going on next later on this evening. We'll talk more shortly. Well, that is the end of my report. I'd like to start a discussion about the next agenda item about the Personnel Committee. I would like to let Brian take the lead on that, or Sherry Collins. Why don't you go ahead, Sherry? I will take my camera off.
First of all, I want to thank you for the kind comment of my plan to retire. And it is an exciting time for the agency. I feel really good about the next chapter of the agency. I really do feel comfortable, or I wouldn't retire because I put so much energy and work in this organization over these years. So I feel comfortable with the next director taking on and make some better changes. And we have Brian, who is with ADOA, what means Arizona Department of Administration. ADOA means that's where a lot of the administration happens for the state of Arizona. Human resources, benefits, procurement office. It's just a very large part of our operation in the state of Arizona. So you're going to be hearing more from Brian momentarily. And so this is what's been happening. And Brian, please stay on. And Brian is going to be our point of contact from now through this process of the executive director search. Yesterday, we met with the personnel committee, and they will be able to speak with you on what we discussed. Mostly it was in the executive session. And but before we go into the executive session, I think it's important for everybody in the board to know Brian's role. And just so you know, we're kind of like going in a different order. Usually I go into my report. Welcome to the new board members and all of that. I will do that next. So haven't forgotten you, Sarah and Lisa. I'll get to you later in my report, so, because we have a long, full agenda. We're trying to move things quickly. So we're going to get into this topic because we really need to move forward on voting on the timeline and everything, she made sure we have an executive director ready before I retire. So Brian, could you please talk about your role and then what we've been doing behind the scenes over the summer to prepare for this meeting tonight?
Surely. Thank you, Sherry, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, everybody, for having me. So, as Sherry said, I'm Brian Westerberg. I'm with ADOA Shared Services, to be specifically. Shared Services is another branch off of ADOA that specializes with, we support about 90 different agencies, smaller agencies, like the Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing, that don't have their own HR. So I'm a senior HR analyst, which is basically the recruiter. So I'll be handling the recruitment section for this. I do other positions. We have one other posting for you guys right now that we're currently working on. But those are the things that I do for your agency, anywhere from liquor licensing, PT board, all kinds of different agencies that I support, about 45 total. So that's what I do in a nutshell on the recruitment section of it. And as Sherry stated, she has been, obviously, you guys have all known she's been here 26 years. I've only been here for a year. So I worked previously at the county hospital for 15 years doing recruitment and managing that team over there. But Sherry started on this, she said over the summer, but we probably started in March. So she's been prepared. We started talking about the discussion, her planning for retirement. So very prepared and going over those things. We worked on what we call a PD, which is basically a position description, or AKA a job description, if you will. So we've been working on that, finalizing education, preferred, required, those kind of things. And so that has been some of the legwork we've been doing, because that has to involve with the class and comp team with that, getting that approved and getting those things, or like our T's crossed and our I's dotted for the PD. And then that we use on the job posting, which Sherry and I just did a form. She did a form yesterday. We're working on that. We're going to meet Monday and kind of finalize some things and talk about getting that position posted. I don't want to step on the toes of the committee. Like we talked about timelines yesterday in the meeting we were in yesterday. Sherry's looking to retire in January, but we're trying to, move this along, get it posted next week, and then start getting applicants, hopefully do first round of interviews by the first weekend of October, and then looking at November 7th for an in-person potentially for somebody to come and present to the board and to the public. But these are timelines, and in the recruiting world, these are all nice to haves and things that we shoot for. They're goals, right? That doesn't mean it's always going to work perfectly out like that way, because we could get a plethora of candidates, or we could get 4. Just to be devil's advocate on the worst case scenario. So I've been doing this for 22 years, so I've seen all kinds of different, not as long as Sherry's been in this role, but I've seen all kinds of different things. So, but excited to find the right candidate for you guys. Obviously big shoes to fill, and we'll do the best that we can to try and filter through that process, get some good candidates in there so that you all can make a selection and go from there. And then the next 5 years of the agency set a course. Is there anything else that I need to touch base on, Sherry? Or
no, I think you cover a lot, Brian. And just for your info, because we're still in the open session, the personnel committee is made of the board chair, Katie, Jennifer Scarborough, Fred William, Andrew Cohen, and I'm trying to think of, I think that's the personnel committee. And we met with the committee yesterday, so you're going to hear from them in a moment when we get into the executive session. But I want to put all this information in public, as Brian said, so you know who the personnel committee is. And I have been working very closely with ADOA on the job description and everything. So Monday, he and I are meeting to get ready to post the position after tonight's meeting, and you're all like ready to go. Brian and I be ready to go. We're finalizing the job post and be ready to post next week. So, but I want to have the opportunity for the board to go in an executive session so we can talk more about other details that the committee can talk about. And I don't think it would take that long because we had a really good meeting yesterday. So I'm gonna ask Katie, the board chair, to call for a motion. Well, before we go to an executive session, in case there's a question from the board, before we go into an executive session to talk about the details of the executive director's search and what's outlined in the job description, the salary post and all of that. So I'm leaving that up to you.
Okay, so just so I heard correctly, you would like me to call for executive session so we might discuss okay, so does the board have any questions before we go into executive session? Would anyone like to make a motion to go into executive session?
I'll second that.
Okay, so Kyla, if you would, take us to executive session. Kyla, is everything okay? All right then. Okay, I want to make sure that everyone is back. Kyla, would you please do a roll call?
Sure. All right. Commissioner Williams, Commissioner O'Rourke, I'll just move on for now and come back to her. Commissioner Scarborough, Commissioner Swenson, Commissioner Venkatesh,
Here.
Commissioner Madsen, Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Cohen, Commissioner Bromarkic, and then again, Commissioner O'Rourke. I don't know if she's here or not.
I mean, we know she's here, but
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
here. She's still remaining on Zoom, so maybe something's going on with her camera, but
yeah.
we're good.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kyla. I wanted to talk just a minute about the executive director search. There are 4 people on the personnel committee. They are myself, Fred Williams, Jennifer Scarborough, and, oh gosh, oh yes, Andrew Cohen. Almost forgot about Andrew for a moment. I apologize. All the love. Okay, so it will be comprised of the 4 of us, and we have established a timeline for the search. And let me pull up my notes and I will tell you what that looks like. During the week of August 19th, we will post the position, and it will include the position description, the qualifications and skills and education necessary, and so forth. It could be found on arizonastatejobs.gov. Then, during the week of September 13th, the Personnel Committee will convene to review the applications and finalize the interview questions. And once reviewed, the applicants pool will then be vetted, and we will do, the Personnel Committee will do a first round of interviews over Zoom, and that will take place the week of October 1st through the 5th. Once that is complete with including discussions, the final pool of applicants will be invited. I'm sorry, excuse me. Are you good, Commissioner O'Rourke?
I don't know what's going on, but I'm having trouble with my microphone, but I'm on now and I'm here and I'll be here the whole time. Sorry.
Okay, great. No problem. Thank you.
Okay,
I'm happy you're here.
thank you.
All good. It happens. Okay, thanks. Okay, where was I? The week of interviews on October. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, so during the week of November 7th, We will invite the final applicants to come to Phoenix for interviews, and that will take place in person. And November 7th will be at the same time, we will be having a board meeting. That's our next board meeting. And it will take place in person at the ACDHH office.
For clarification,
Right. You know, you did such a beautiful job. Commissioner Scarborough, please take over.
well, yes, for November 7th, that will include a board meeting, an in-person board meeting, and then also the board will come together at the Phoenix office for that meeting. And the final group of applicants will be asked to present to the community. And then the community will have the opportunity to be familiar with these final group of candidates. And then on November 8th, we will have a final round of interviews with those applicants. And the board will also take the opportunity to meet with the ACDHH staff members as well, to discuss with them and hear their feedback. And then we'll move on to the interviews on Friday.
Thank you, Commissioner Scarborough. I appreciate the teamwork. So that is our timeline, just so that you all are aware. Commissioner Scarborough?
And then also, I'd like to make a motion that the board accept the personnel committees doing the initial part of the process, to include reviewing the applicants, making a decision on who to interview for the first group of candidates in that round, and then making recommendations for the final pool of applicants for the full board to then interview.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I second that.
I see Commissioner Cohen seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
So Carla, would you please do a roll call? It would be easier.
Sure,
Thank you
I'll
so
just do it.
much.
So Commissioner Williams,
And I'm having a hard time with the pronunciation of the
Commissioner
last name.
O'Rourke,
Aye.
Commissioner Swenson, Commissioner Beaumarkic,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Madsen, Commissioner Venkatesh,
Aye.
Commissioner Scarborough. And then I think the only one we're missing at this point is Commissioner Cohen. If there's somebody else that's missing, please let me know. Good. Okay. And then Commissioner Cinco, sorry, forgot you.
Yes, and I'm in support. And the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate your support on this. I'm going to turn this over to the lovely Executive Director, Sherry Collins.
I want to thank the board. So this is great. That helped me with my timeline. And also I wanted to, if Katie, Madam Chair, if you can excuse Brian, he can leave the meeting.
Yes, Brian, you are excused. Thank you for all you've done. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you. I look forward to helping throughout this whole process. So everyone have a great evening. Thank you.
I'll see you Monday, Brian.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you want to go to my report? Okay. All right.
Yes, the floor is all yours for the
Thank
executive
you. For
director's
first of
report.
all, I want to bring up Lisa and Sarah on the screen, our two new board members. Could you please come up on the screen? There's Lisa and Sarah. Where are you? She'll come up. I'm gonna ask both of you, talk a little bit about who you are. There she is. I'm gonna start with Lisa. Kyla and I had the pleasure to meet with, and Victoria, to meet with Sarah and Lisa, two most recent board members. And we provided training and all of that. Like, you all know how that works. When you're first board training, you're overwhelmed with all that information. So first of all, I want to introduce Lisa. And Lisa is the licensure representative from NUMA. So we're really excited to spread our representative in Arizona. So Lisa, welcome. Could you tell everybody about who you are and what you do in the community as an interpreter?
All right. My name is Lisa Swenson, and I have lived here in Yuma for nearly 20 years now. I'm from Minnesota, so I had a pretty extreme contrast when I came here. I work in the college setting. I do interpreting. I do some community interpreting as well, but I also do accommodating for students with disabilities at the college. So I have a pretty full schedule as far as that goes. I have worked with the hospital a little bit and helping them kind of adjust how they help their patients and advocate for services. And yeah, I think, is there anything else that you wanted to know?
I think it's great, but when I met with Lisa the other day, I just love her pillow on her chair. I love that little Boston Terrier pillow. I want that pillow. Anyway, but yeah, so I think we're really excited to have somebody from Yuma, because I'm always interested in the rural community, and we've not had anybody from Yuma since, for some of you know, Sherry Appleby. Sherry Appleby was a former board chair, and she's the owner of a hearing aid center in Yuma, and she has a hearing loss. She has been a tremendous advocate for our commission. And one of the initiatives in our plan of the HSC plan is really focused on Yuma. So we're really, really happy to have Lisa, because it's always good to have a board member to help us connect with the community, not just with the community, but the providers, the professionals, and all those people that serve the community as a whole. So we're really, really, really excited. So Lisa, welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So next is Sarah. Sarah is with ASU, and she is hard of hearing. So I'm going to let her talk about who she is. She will be a phenomenal contact with us and some of the work that we do in the community. So we're really happy that she's on board. So Lisa, welcome on board.
Thank you. So my name's Sarah Bomersich. And
Sarah, I'm sorry. Your name is Sarah. Keep saying Lisa. Sarah, I know you know what I'm talking about. I apologize.
So my name is Sarah Bomersich, and as Sherry mentioned, I teach at ASU. I specialize in classical languages, that's ancient Greek and Latin. So I teach them and classical cultures and civilizations as well. As Sherry mentioned, I'm hard of hearing. In my family, there's a genetic mutation for hearing loss, which usually progresses to deafness in middle age. So I was born with that. It goes back about 6 generations to a great great grandfather in Scotland, and it's obviously a dominant gene. So I've been wearing hearing aids since I was 6, and I don't really know what else to say, but that's why I'm here.
You know, Sarah, you have a very unique background as a hard of hearing person from 6th generation. So, you know, and then your role with the university, and I know my team has been telling me about some of the opportunities that we can do to work with you with the university. So it's always important that when we have board members that can help us to reach out to more people because of their connection or of their work. So this is another good example, Lisa and Yuma, and then we have Sarah with ASU, because we have good relationship with different people with all 3 in university. So welcome aboard, Sarah.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry I call you Lisa at first. It's just my mind breaking. Anyway, so that's the beginning of the my report. And also just so you know that the governor's office is still interviewing other applicants vacancy, and so we might have some more new replacement before the November board meeting. And that is the DES rep and there's 2 representatives that are up for reemplacement, reappointment. The other term expired. That means new appointment. I'm sorry. Brad Williams was reappointed. Oh man, who else was reappointed? We have several people that were reappointed. I don't have it in front of me, but we have a few vacancies, just so you know that it is in the works. And now I'm not going to get into the detail because we have a full agenda. So I hope that you read the board report. But the 2 things that I want to highlight: the 2 people that receive an award and recognition is Michelle Michaels and myself. And I think and also Christy Abrams. So, you know, kudos to the team for the recognition of their work, but everything else is pretty much, you know, continuing or the excellent work with the community and, you know, presentation, outreach, and all that. So I'm going to make my report very brief because we have a lot more to do. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much, Sherry. Okay, it is currently 5:45 or 5:44. I think now might be a good time for a 10-minute break so that the interpreters can rest their hands and voices and the cart can take a break as well. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, and please come back at 5:55. 5:55. Thank you so much.
Hello. Okay, are we back live? Okay, hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. He is back and that we still have a quorum. Carla, would you mind doing roll call, please?
Of course. Commissioner O'Rourke,
Here,
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Bolmarkic, Commissioner Cohen, Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Madsen, Commissioner Venkatesh,
Here.
Commissioner Swenson, Commissioner Scarborough. Good.
Thank you, Kyla. Next item on the agenda is public comments. We have 4 public comments tonight. We will start off with Cameo Hunsaker. She's going to talk about a complaint she has made against Tyree Howard. Tyree Howard. I believe Cameo is here. Would you like to make your comments?
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you. Madam Chairwoman and Board, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to make my comments today. I wanted to make sure that the details of my complaint were shared publicly during this meeting so that all of the communities that we serve can have full access to the summary of this incident, regardless of the language that they use. So, on September 19th, 2023, I was a participant in a Zoom meeting with several administrators from statewide healthcare facilities. I was joined in this meeting by Deb Stone, an Arizona licensed certified deaf interpreter, and ASL language analyst. Deb and I were invited to this meeting as subject matter experts to consult with these healthcare groups about communication access for deaf patients. The host of the meeting arranged for interpreting services through one of their contracted language vendors, a Corby. The interpreter who joined us that evening was Mr. Tyree Howard, whom this complaint is about. When Mr. Howard joined the Zoom call, it was apparent that he was in the driver's seat of a car. He was connected through his cell phone, which was propped up above his steering wheel. His background was blurred. He was dressed in a white sweater, a hat. He was wearing a long, thick gold chain with a very large pendant. Besides the lack of privacy and potential for confidentiality violations, Mr. Howard also had several technical challenges from inside his car. Interpreting from his cell phone limited Mr. Howard from being able to see or hear the participants clearly. There was environmental noise that was often a barrier to communication, such as when cars would drive by or the horn from an occasional passing train. Mr. Howard's inability to navigate Zoom from his smartphone was a repeated intrusion to the communication. The internet connection was continuously faulty, causing Mr. Howard's video to freeze and even dropped him from the meeting for several minutes. Mr. Howard's English to ASL interpretation struggled to meet message equivalency. It is unclear whether this was because of a lack of skill from his blurred background, making him difficult to understand, or the fact that he was struggling to hear the audio from his phone. More concerning, though, was the ASL to English interpreting work, which was wholly ineffective. There were severe errors and omissions in almost all of the utterances. Mr. Howard rarely asked the deaf consumer for clarification and neglected to inform the participants that the errors were from the interpreting product, not from the source message, the deaf consumer. At one point, Mr. Howard stopped interpreting mid-sentence, watched the deaf consumer for several minutes in silence, then inaccurately summarized the message, including some of his own thoughts and opinions. The errors were so severe and the ethical violations so egregious that several of the hearing consumers who had never worked with a deaf individual or an ASL interpreter before sent me private messages asking if, quote, this behavior from interpreters was normal because, quote, something seemed off. Not only were there several violations of the RID Code of Professional Conduct evident in this work, it also violated the Department of Justice Video Remote Interpreting Performance Standards in Title III of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Mr. Howard's interpretation undermined the deaf consumer's expertise, which has potential negative consequences for her working relationship with the healthcare facilities, and the hearing consumer's willingness to be involved in this project moving forward. At the conclusion of the meeting, I was unable to find any evidence that Mr. Howard holds a certification from RID or BEI or a valid Arizona interpreting license, which, of course, as you know, is a violation of Arizona state statute. According to the meeting's host, who contracts with the Corby, they have consistently assured her that they only schedule Arizona licensed interpreters for work with Arizona deaf clients. That was not the case in this situation. Mr. Howard's ethical violations have some far-reaching effects. The positive change that could have resulted from this meeting could have potentially improved communication access for deaf Medicare and Medicaid patients across Arizona. But the time and energy that it took to repair the interpreted message and resolve his technology barriers used up most of the limited time that Deb and I had to impact any policies or procedures for these medical facilities. We have not, as of yet, been invited back for a follow-up meeting with those stakeholders. Now, in my original complaint, I did attach a screenshot of the Zoom meeting, and I'm hoping that that picture will be available in the public record should anyone from the communities that we serve want to see evidence of these violations. I thank the board for giving me this time, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cameo. We appreciate you taking the time to share your complaint. As well, I'd like to share with the board and the public that I would like to apologize for this jumping on. We would like to continue with public comments. So we forgot to do the public comment opening statement. So that was my error. But thank you, Cameo. Certainly, you may go, thanks, or off camera. So the public comment statement says that the board is responsible for establishing a time limit for public participation unless modified by the board at a particular meeting. It should be limited to 3 minutes instead of 5 for all topics. Personal attacks on board members and staff or other participants in attendance, or here or not here, would be a violation and would be subject to be dismissed. And so, or comments that are salacious, that we would call to civil action. And then it would be a violation of the rules and be banished from future meetings. And this applies to both the public and board meetings or hybrid meetings in person. So we appreciate your cooperation. So before we move forward, The next public comment is a deafblind individual, and I would like to ask the board to please allow for an extended period of time of 5 minutes, if that's all right with you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your flexibility. Excuse me. I'm not sure if the participant is here. I think they may have lost their internet connection. So we'll move on to the next person. Joni Horn. She would like to provide public comments on an interpreter complaint against Margaret Barta. Is Joni here? You have the floor.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chairperson and Commissioners, for allowing me to make my comments this evening. My name is Joni Horn. I am the owner of Arizona Freelance Interpreting Services, and I am here to make a comment in regards to Ms. Barta's agenda item. I would like to say thank you to the commissioners who asked for this topic be tabled from the last meeting. At the last meeting, her complaint was discussed and questions came up with the request in that process. And I can tell you that I was like a child at school with their hand saying, "Ooh, call on me." But I knew that would not happen. So I'm here today to provide information. During that last meeting, when it was talked about the request, and the request was made during the, made through the website. And during that meeting, it said, it was mentioned that once that request is submitted, you hit the submit button and it goes off, that information could not be retrieved. And so I did inquire with my office, and nobody reached out to inquire on whether or not we could retrieve that information that was submitted through the website. So I did submit that information to ACDHH and hope that it's included in your packet of information. So I just want to kind of highlight some information about that request. So
only a few 2 minutes left.
Oh, thank you. So that request came into our office. It requested 2 ASL and 2 CDIs. So from our perspective, they're all going to be teaming on that assignment. Nowhere on that request was tactile mentioned, but our information that we had led us to believe that the consumer did utilize tactile services. And so when we looked at the request of 2 ASL, 2 CDIs, we read that the CDIs would be doing the tactile. Nowhere in that request was it mentioned that it was going to be tactile service. On the paperwork that I sent in, you can see where you click on the service type, and 2 ASL interpreters was requested. But if you look down a little further on the selection, there is an opportunity to select tactile. If Tactile had been selected, I can tell you Miss Barter would never have shown up for that assignment. We know that Miss Barter does not do tactile. And I can't tell if I'm done.
Joni, I apologize. I have to stop you. Time is up. There was an interpreter error that said 2 minutes left. It was actually 1 minute.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joni. Okay. The deafblind person is back on Zoom who would like to make public comment. Remember that we ask for the accommodation of extended time as she is reading her script. So we would like to turn it over now to Cassie Hassett to make her comments regarding SSP services. The floor is yours, Casey. Hello, Casey. Just so you know, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you so much. So I'll go ahead and get started now. Good evening, Madam Chairperson Seiko and Executive Director Sherry Collins, as well as the board members. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'm looking at my script at the same time here. My name is Casey Hassett. This is my sign name, see on the chest. And you may be familiar with my work in the community. I'm a founder of 3 organizations: Deaf Blind Social in Tucson, Arizona, DBST for short. I'm a Southern representative for the Arizona Association of the Deaf, AZAD, and a chairperson of the Deaf Advisory Board with the Community Outreach Program for the Deaf, abbreviated COPD, and Valley Center of the Deaf, VCD. So I'm coming to you tonight to talk about SSPs. SSPs are support service providers, and they play a crucial role in facilitating communication and access for deafblind individuals by providing visual and tactile support. SSPs help enhance the independence and quality of life for deafblind individuals by assisting them in navigating their environments and connecting with the community. SSPs are trained professionals who provide essential assistance to deafblind individuals. Their role goes beyond just basic communication, as they utilize visual and tactile communication to support individuals who have both hearing and vision loss. SSPs help bridge the communication gap by providing visual information, guiding through physical environments, and facilitating social interactions, and offering access to transportation and information. They act as a crucial link between the deafblind individual and their surrounding world, enabling a greater independence and participation in the community. I'd like to take the time tonight to express my gratitude to the Arizona Commission of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, ACDHH, for their unwavering support and advocacy in ensuring that deafblind individuals in Arizona get the support and services they need to go to appointments, do grocery shopping, and participate in community events. I do recognize that the past year has been challenging due to hours constraints and challenges with our state legislation. But please know that members of our deafblind community in Tucson do recognize the hard work you put into making this possible. And we genuinely appreciate the ACDHH staff hosting town hall meetings in both Tucson and Phoenix to learn more about the challenges and barriers we are currently facing. We have a lot of work to do to make changes across the state. Lots of work to do in that regard. Steve Jobs, the former CEO of Apple, once said, and I quote, "The ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do." With the ongoing partnership with ACDHH and the Arizona deafblind community, we can continue to initiate change through open conversation and collaboration. I look forward to continuing to work with you. Once again, thank you for all that you do. Take care.
Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay. Next up is Margaret Barta. She has a written comment that she filed regarding her complaint against her. Who has the written comments? Kyla, would you mind reading the comments? Thank you.
The comment reads as follows. Regarding the complaint made against me by Karen Tenen on December 19th, 2023. Number 1, as of today, I still have not been notified by ACDHH of what the exact complaint is. It is entirely unfair that throughout this entire process, I was never made aware of the actual complaint. All that was told to me is that I was accused of being unprofessional. How can I defend myself against an unknown? I did not know what the complaint was until I saw Karen during her live comments at the May 16th board meeting itself, after which I had no ability to defend myself because the meeting was on YouTube. I still have not seen the complaint nor the remarks made by my team. When asked to get that information from ACDHH through a records release, my request was unfairly denied by Carmen Green. Number 2, during the May 16th, 2024 board meeting in her live remarks, Karen said this happened in her home on November 16th. I was never in her home on that date. She also said that the interpreter kept trying to touch her. That definitely was not me. For someone like me who is unfamiliar and untrained to work in tactile, the last thing I would do is to try to touch someone. These 2 points lead me to believe that Karen might be thinking about a different encounter with a different interpreter on a different day. Karen made her official complaint more than a month later and she could have me confused with someone else. Number 3, I was in a situation which was unexpected and for which I have no training. I never accept tactile, let alone pro-tactile jobs. During Karen's live remarks at the board meeting on May 16th, she very clearly stated that she gave me the choice to stay or to leave. My team also said I could leave, so I left. All of this interaction took place within the span of about a minute, maybe less. When my team said I could leave, he was at that moment sitting next to Karen with his hands under hers. It was his responsibility and my understanding that he was interpreting that information at that very moment. The reason why this is so very clear to me is because when I came back into her apartment after having an emotional moment out in the hall during the break, the meeting was about to resume, and I thought it would have been very disruptive to leave at any other time than right then. Karen's complaint was that it was unprofessional for me to leave the meeting only moments after having said I could do just that. Finding myself in a job that was completely out of my scope of knowledge and skill caused extreme anxiety, and according to the CPC, it was important for me to tell my team and my client and take myself out of that situation. Number 4, This is a conflict of interest. ACDHH, Victoria, was the requester. ACDHH received the official complaint. ACDHH was the investigator. ACDHH issues a verdict and possible punishment. This issue started because the job was requested by ACDHH without including that tactile, protactile was the required language for this client. Had this job been requested properly, I would have never been assigned to it in the first place. ACDHH is too integrally involved to be able to make an impartial judgment. This complaint should have been handled over to an outside source to be reviewed. Number 5, during the May 16th board meeting, several of the board members jumped to the corrective action phase of this complaint before any discussion of my guilt or innocence had started. This was backwards and unfair. Based on the above reasons, I believe this complaint should be waived.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you for reading the public comment. That's it for public comments. I believe Sherry has something to add, so I'll turn it to her.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I want to go back to Casey's comment on the deadline, and I want to personally say thank you for being persistent, showing up, putting pressure on the commission on better quality of services for deafblind community. And I'm going to tell you from my heart, I have a personal best interest on the deafblind way back 30 plus years ago when I met the first deafblind person. If you know Harry Anderson, I have a lot of story about that wonderful man. Harry Anderson lived in Florida. I became his first SFP, and he had taught me so much. And since to that moment of my experience that I became his SFP, that was before ADA law. I mean, I'm only 25. So I want you to know that you will hear in our budget discussion tonight that we are requesting double the amount of the SFP funding. So we will need all of your support, the deafblind community, to join the fight. Now, legislative session starts in January, and whenever I retire, I'm going to join that fight with you as a community advocate. I will be with you. I am going to fight hard because you all deserve much more than what we got, that we're allowed to do, that was given to us. So I want to reinforce your presence tonight. Keep showing up. Not just tonight, but other places. So I just want to thank you for showing up tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Casey, for sharing and making the impact that you have. You know that you're awesome. Sharing the love. Okay. Next up is an interpreter complaint. I just want to double check to see if our AAG is still online with us. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. One moment, please. I apologize. I've got allergies that are terrible right now. Okay. We have actually 5 complaints. Two are complaints that are, well, I'm going to turn that over to Victoria for her comments. The floor is yours, madam.
Thank you. Good evening. I want to make sure that my volume is okay for the interpreters and everyone. Are we good? Okay, perfect. So we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to start with the first complaint on the agenda as against interpreter Margaret Barta, filed by Karen Tenen. This is a continuation from the complaint that was on the agenda in May of this year. So first want to highlight some things that were talked about in the May meeting so that they can be addressed in this meeting. According to the transcript in the May meeting, there were questions about the ability for ACDHH staff when they input the request into the agency's request system, if they were able to input that it was a tactile assignment, and B, if that information could be retrieved, that original information. So in your report that was uploaded, it does show that the investigator was wrong. So the information reviewed in the May meeting was wrong. We were able to get that information after that meeting. The agency owner did send that information to me to show me the original request. And so we do have that, that's in the board report. And then in the request itself, it does not say tactile. So in that request, it does, as was mentioned before, it started off with requesting for 2 CDIs, right-handed CDIs, to do copy signing. So that is what was put in the original request. You'll see the progression in the report of the back and forth between myself and the agency of amending that, the correspondence between Karen Tenen and myself, clarifying her request, what the meeting is for. So there's definitely potential, not potential, there was a miscommunication between the initial request and what was communicated to the interpreters that showed up to Karen's residence for that meeting. Two seconds here. So now that we have that the clarification on those items, right, I'd like to draw our attention back to the complaint that Karen Tenen made. The fact remains that Karen Tenen made a complaint about the interactions and behavior of the assigned interpreter, Margaret Barta, on November 6, 2023. Karen has previously expressed her disappointment and humiliation at how the interpreter handled the situation after realizing the job required a skill set that she did not have. In an effort to be fully transparent, there have been accusations of non-partiality on the part of the investigator because the investigator, as was pointed out earlier, was the ACDHH staff that did the request. The consumer did again file a complaint about what happened at her home and feels that the behavior exhibited by Margaret was unprofessional. Because of the mistakes and the accusations of not being partial, the investigator will refrain from a recommendation for this complaint, and also due to the nature of the involvement of the investigator in this case. So I'm going to refrain from making a recommendation like I normally do. I do want to point our board members to the discipline guideline that if you do decide to enforce the discipline, those are your options on that sheet there. And there's also an option to dismiss. So we can do dismiss or impose the following disciplinary actions, which can range from a letter of reprimand, a civil penalty, which can be a settlement amount, or it can be continuing education training, probation of license, suspension of license, or revocation of license. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I see many hands. So we will start with Commissioner Scarborough and then move to Commissioner Webster. Excuse me, interpreter error, Commissioner Williams next.
So I do want to clarify as far as the decisions go, because we moved forward with progressing. And then we did have an investigation. We do know the commission was involved in that situation. So what would be typical? Would the commission always investigate no matter what, if they were involved or if they were not? Or will there be changes made from here on out regarding this type of process so we can avoid this situation in the future? So that is also connected to another public comment as well from Cameo regarding her public comment. With that situation, that complaint was from the commission. So did the commission investigate that complaint? So I do have some concerns already with these two complaints that we're discussing at this meeting that ACDHH was involved in and also responsible for investigating. So I think that I recommend that we do not do that any longer.
Thank you, Commissioner Scarborough. Commissioner Williams.
I had a question that, in all fairness, is because of my ignorance of the deafblind community in this kind of detail. If you get a request for support for a deafblind person, I assumed that would include some kind of tactile, I'm not pronouncing tactile support, but I can see how it might be possible that you could provide a deafblind person support visually or some other way. So my point is it reasonable to assume if you're asking to support a deafblind person that you would require tactile support?
And thank you for that question, Commissioner Williams. No, it's not reasonable to assume that the visual ability of that consumer can vary. So, and they may not do tactile. So it's not, we can't assume that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Williams. So does the board have any questions? I see Commissioner Cohen.
So in reviewing the documents, I was looking at everything yesterday, and this situation, it seems to be a lot of errors that occurred along the way, a lot of miscommunications and the like. So I feel really bad for everyone who was involved in this situation. So I do have 4 comments that I'd like to make. So let's see here. So the first comment would be recognizing Karen. Now, do understand, when new people move here or join a new company or whatever it may be, they are always the best people to recognize gaps and find errors in a system. They are. So Karen stood up and brought that to everyone's attention. So that's great. That's wonderful. And we recognize them for that. We're appreciative of that. That's wonderful. I do want to recognize that. The second part of it would be, so I guess I would say my theory is, if I were to call a small business and I were to say, need reasonable accommodations, would you mind getting a sign language interpreter for those accommodations via a third party? So, and that person would to arrive and it would go awry. The small business may not have been educated or, may not have all of the information. I might understand that. But in this situation, the small business was ACDHH, Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. That agency, provides services throughout to deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind, and the like throughout Arizona. So, of course, they're highly qualified, but this situation doesn't match the standard that we would expect. It's not matching that standard. So again, just a personal view. And of course, this is professional. But with that comment, I would like to make a recommendation to put something in place, maybe an ad hoc committee, maybe to partner with ACDHH to review any type of interpreter investigation process and see if we recognize anything that is lacking and make a list of that so we can prevent this from happening in the future. And of course, we would bring that list of discrepancies to the next board meeting. And I will hold my other two things for later.
Okay, Andrew, if I'm hearing you correctly, are you making a motion to create an ad hoc committee to review the intake process for interpreters? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I would like to motion for an ad hoc committee to partner with ACDHH and review the interpreter intake process and recognize any improvements that need to be made and make those changes so that we can protect ourselves from here on out.
Okay, do we have a second? Seeing Commissioner Thompson and her second, I think that it might be a good idea now to do a roll call. Kyla, would you mind?
So can we discuss this one moment? Can we pause before we take a vote? Yeah, that's
yes.
Procedure.
Yes. Go ahead.
So, Andrew, can this ad hoc committee be an interpreter review committee? Could they handle this? Or would you prefer an external group for the committee? This is Andrew here. That's an excellent question. I would say, as far as the intake form, it's well, for deaf blind, I'm not sure if everyone uses that form or not. And I don't know, I guess I would have to ask the interpreter committee and I can refer to Sherry Collins on this or the like.
Sherry, feel free to take the floor.
I think that this is my thinking. I don't think this should be appropriate for ILC committee because ILC only reviewed licensure application. This is an intake process providing service. So I think it needs to be a special work group on that. And I know we've had internal discussion about the intake and we recognize the challenge. The problem is the check and balance is we have procurement because of our tax dollars. We have to prove that the service was delivered If it's not, where's the check and balance? Let me go back and give you an example. This is not a good analogy, but when I first came here, 26 years ago, we went through a sunset review and there was a lot of criticism of our telephone equipment distribution program. At that time, we handled the inventory of all of the equipment. Well, we got a lot of criticism in the audit report and we were in the newspaper and everything, but I inherited the problem, but I didn't cause that. But I had to clean it up. But the point is, we had to show our tax dollars to prove we have an inventory and people have the equipment or they're returning the equipment. So we have to think about it. I think we need to have this meeting. Let me say that we should have this discussion, but you have to remember we have to have a good check and balance to prove, because we're using state dollars. So where is the check and balance? Yes, they're using their services, but for what reason? And I'm saying that just for the public to understand that there's a lot of complexity involved when it comes to budgeting. That does not discount the concern that is brought to our attention. I get that. I get that. So I think that we should have a separate work group specifically for that. That would be my recommendation.
I see Commissioner Scarborough and then Commissioner Thompson.
Well, I am more confused now, actually. So the motion from Andrew is to have an ad hoc committee research the process of complaints. Am I right?
I thought it was.
So Andrew is saying, let me clarify, not to investigate the complaint, but more about the process itself and how deafblind people also request interpreters from ACDHH. So we want to analyze that work. We want to work with ACDHH regarding that process and how that occurs.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And I understood the intake, and I'm taking from the intake because that's where the request comes in. And then you have different agencies have their own form, their own process through the procurement, not the agency. This is the state interpreter request system. That's what we follow. It's not just ACDHH. DES has their own interpreter request. So I think we need to clarify that. So I'm going to defer that to Victoria. I'm Andrew, I get you, but I think we need to be clear on what you mean by intake, because the intake process is not ACDHH, it's the procurement when it comes to licensure. So if you're talking about intake process for the SSP, that's different. So which one are we talking about?
Oh, it sounds like my motion is not clear. I should revise that to something like, I make a motion to set up an ad hoc group to review the process for deafblind people to receive interpreters via ACDHH. Is that better? Is that clearer, Jerry?
Sorry, I'm going to defer that to you, Victoria.
Okay. So just to clarify, the intake process, are you talking about the intake process from our deafblind consumers when they submit it to ACDHH? that process, because there's a two-part process. So we get it from our deafblind community members, and then ACDHH sends it to various agencies on the state contract by various means, depending on how they do their intake. So you want to audit the process or fine tune the process between the deafblind consumers and the community to ACDHH, is what I'm understanding. Is that right?
This is Andrew here. Really, I'm not saying whatever part of the process, just I guess the full entire process from A to Z, from start to finish. And that's what I'm looking at.
That makes sense to me. Oh.
So basically, you're saying you want to create an ad hoc committee to revisit the intake process from start to provision with, you want to provide feedback.
Yeah, that works. That's fine.
Okay. Before you go, I have a few hands in the air.
Sure, I see Carmen.
Especially our AAG, who has been waiting for quite a while. I'd like to turn it over to you, Elise.
Hi, thank you. So regarding such a committee, if that's something that you guys want to do, of course, I just would like to put it out there that I believe the Attorney General's office should be involved, because I think that there's not time for me to go into it at this meeting, but a lot of the authority, duties, and process are actually statutory standards. And so that's something that the Attorney General's office, they're also based a lot on the procurement contracts that we analyze and sign on behalf of the state. And so I'm your representative from the Attorney General's office as the attorney who represents the commission. So I just want to be sure that me and, the Attorney General's office generally are involved in this, because I think I can probably clear up a lot of your questions. But again, there's not time for it here.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. Okay, I remember seeing Commissioner Thompson. I think you wanted to make a comment.
Thank you. I think what I'm seeing is there's a disconnect between from deafblind client to the request, how the interpreting agency gets the request and the information that is provided. And I'm really concerned about that disconnect of making sure how the standard is done. And granted, this is a relatively new process of requesting interpreting services for the deafblind and CVHR community. It's relatively new. And so each agency that provides interpreting services have their own way of receiving the information. But I'm really concerned about having more of consistency and having a model to work from for the interpreting agency receiving the request, that they get all the pertinent information. So that's just really my 2 cents and my concern for what I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Okay, so anyone else? Commissioner Scarborough.
Yes, so going back to the original comment that I had mentioned, and it applies directly to this situation. Again, this is all ACDHH requesting the services for the deafblind consumer. I think it's important to investigate the process that ACDHH takes on, just like Andrew had mentioned, how services are requested, but I'm a little bit confused as to why services are requested for the consumer instead of the consumer themselves directly requesting. What I mean, I know that the commission is responsible for SSP and that budget. I'm aware of that, and I know what is going on with that, but I'm not sure how the commission was involved in this in the first place. Yeah.
That's a good question. So it does help to give,
Andrew is saying, yes, that's part of the review. I think that would be completely involved in the review. We would figure out all that information as well.
In my mind, it makes sense to me. Because as a deaf-sighted person, I understand how a request is made and how that works and what it looks like. So it's hard to understand where the gaps are or where it fell through the cracks. I understand why the commission and why Commissioner Scarborough is confused. And so when I need an interpreter, a request is made differently. I don't know how a deaf-blind person would do that. Something does not look and feel right. So I'm understanding you all. Victoria, did you want to add something?
I do, yes. So just to provide a little bit of history, this request or this process for requesting interpreting services for our deafblind consumers in the community started during COVID. So it was to help our community members to be able to, who had to use the VP or VRS. We would hire interpreters to go to their home and to do copy signing so that they could see what was on, so that they could know the information that was on the screen and communicate back and forth. So that's where this originated, is really for copy signing for those VP and VRS calls, right? So we've done this for a couple of years. This definitely was a hiccup and miscommunication, but what was done was a copy and paste, because we've done this for years, especially for Karen Tenen. It's been copy signing. Everyone who shows up there knew what to do, bingo, bango, no problems. This one was very different, and it didn't have a red flag for the requester to say, hey, this isn't a copy and paste. We need to do something different. So this one incident did prompt further discussions and further analyzing of our processes on the back end to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But that's where it originated. It was for copy signing for those VP and VRS calls. That's how this all began. And that's why we're the requester. And that's why we reach out to the interpreting agencies when our deafblind consumers reach out to us to let us know that they would like those services. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. I do appreciate your transparency where the mistake took place. The cutting and pasting, yes, I can see where that would get overlooked. I understand. The requester is human, and it happens. How that one small mistake had made such an impact on both communities, that definitely was a wake-up call. I see Commissioner Bowles-Marcich.
Yes, I just wanted to redirect to part of the concern that Commissioner Scarborough raised in her initial comment, which was that we are both the investigating party and the provider. And I agree that there should be some renewed look at the intake process. But I also wonder if there shouldn't be a look into that question. How can we investigate something that we also kind of set up? Is that intended to be part of the ad hoc working groups brief?
Andrew, what do you think?
This is Andrew. So yeah, I was trying to keep my motion simple. I didn't want to add too many details to it or make it too general. But yeah, I think it really covers everything, honestly.
Thank you. Commissioner Scarborough.
I was planning to make another motion if you didn't include it, Andrew. Andrew said, go ahead. Would you like to amend? And Commissioner Scarborough said, yes, I'd like to amend that we investigate the interpreter complaint process as well as the first motion.
So the motion is?
All right, let's see. I thought it was going to be separate. Commissioner Cohen is saying, okay, 2 separate processes. All right, let's see. From my perspective, let's see. I think it's more of a common ground. Maybe, I don't know if we need to make a separate motion. I think mine is technically declined and we'll just move forward with another motion.
Okay, we have 2 different motions. Okay. So, beginning with Commissioner Cohen's motion, the motion is to revisit the request process with ACDHH identifying the gaps. Is that what I'm hearing, Andrew?
And implementing the ad hoc committee.
Okay, so the motion is to implement an ad hoc committee to revisit the request process and identify the gaps. Okay, do I have a second to Commissioner Cohen's motion?
A second.
Oh, great. Commissioner Scarborough has seconded it.
We got each other's back.
Okay. So, Carla, a roll call, please. Thank you.
Of course. Commissioner Williams. Oops, sorry. I see Sherry.
Sorry. Sherry Collins,
For
please.
clarification, to establish an ad hoc, and I get that. So with the assumption the AAG will be involved, perhaps Andrew will lead the ad hoc committee on behalf of the commission. I want to, that way it's not, okay, you have an ad hoc, but then what? So let's make it clear that we have the AAG involved and then Andrew, I see his thumb is up. So kind of with the assumption, I'm not asking you to modify, but with that assumption, Andrew.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
good with that.
Okay. The motion is to establish an ad hoc committee to revisit the process of requesting interpreting services for the deafblind community, identifying gaps, with the understanding that the lead of the ad hoc committee would be involved in the process. We would be involved in the process. Do we have a second for that?
And the AAG as well.
This is Commissioner.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Williams. Carla, roll call for the vote. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, while you're here. Commissioner Brolmarkic. Commissioner Cohen.
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Madsen. Commissioner Venkatesh. Commissioner Venkatesh?
Commissioner Venkatesh, are you here?
She's still here on Zoom, so maybe she's having an issue with.
Maybe she's on mute.
Commissioner Swenson? Commissioner Scarborough?
Let's come back. Sorry, we'll go back to her.
Commissioner O'Rourke? Commissioner Cinco?
Here.
And one more time, we'll check again on Commissioner Venkatesh.
Yes, sorry. I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm happy you're here.
I am too.
So much. I'm going to move forward to my other two comments. This is regarding Pablo Felix. And he was one of the interpreters that was there. Again, his heart was in the right place, absolutely. Trying to work everything out and figuring things out at that moment. But at the same time, as far as the law, it was against him because he was not licensed. So he should have, fought back and asked the other interpreter to not leave because they were not licensed, because he was not licensed. So he should have mentioned that. So I think that we might need to make a motion to implore him to take some type of self-advocacy training, maybe a few hours, to gain more awareness of how to make sure that that doesn't occur again. He doesn't want to be responsible as far as the law goes. So that's just an idea that I'd like to propose.
Should we open for discussion? What does the board think? Commissioner Balmarsich.
To follow up on Commissioner Cohen's.
Sorry, I'm so used to spelling last names and it's taking me a little while. I apologize.
To follow up on Commissioner Cohen's comment, is there a reason he was not included in the complaint? Because the complainant didn't name him? Is that the only reason?
Hi.
This is Andrew here. That's a great question, honestly. Let's see. The hearing interpreter there had mentioned that they knew Pablo wasn't licensed, but then still left as well. So he then should have spoke up for himself. So that's another gap that was identified too. So I felt that I just wanted to kind of fix or address that gap. I don't know if it's an appropriate motion for us to have him take these classes. You all decide, but I wanted to mention it.
Okay. What does the board think? Commissioner Scarborough.
So I think, honestly, it is appropriate that we at least send Pablo a letter just to let them know that they broke the law, that they should know. However, as far as penalty goes, without a formal complaint, I don't know where we stand in that case. I don't know if it's even possible. So that might be something that we need to ask the AAG.
Commissioner Balmarsich.
Don't worry about it. So I guess my question then is, do we have the authority to do what's being proposed? to send Pablo Felix any kind of letter? I mean, if he's not named in the complaint, do we have that authority?
I have a question for our AAG. I'm wondering if possible to provide feedback on this matter.
To be honest, this would be legal advice, so I don't know if I can give it in the open forum. I will say that to give you a full answer, I would want to be able to cite some stuff, but without giving formal legal advice, or that would be saved for an executive session, I would just say that I do not believe that the commission has the authority to do that. However, individuals have the authority and the right to make complaints. So if as an individual you're uncomfortable with what happened, you're welcome to make a complaint, and that would be something that we discuss at a future board meeting. But that would be sort of an executive decision that we don't really have the right to do. So for anything further, we'd have to go into an executive session because it would be true legal advice, but just on the basics of the complaint process.
Yes, thank you. Sherry?
No, that's all I was going to say. I was just going to reiterate that Pablo wasn't named in the complaint. So, but Elise covered it.
Right. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Cohen, one moment. I'll wait till you are saying, did you have a comment? Would you like to continue?
Okay, yes. Let's see. Hopefully Pablo will learn his lesson from that incident. So the last thing would be regarding Margaret, the person that had the formal complaint. So I'm sure she had a great heart and the like, but I did ask Victoria how long this person had been licensed as an interpreter, and they have been licensed over 15 years. So personally, I don't think it's appropriate to provide that training for a person who has already worked for 15 years and still makes those types of choices. So I think we could move forward from that. But after 15 years of interpreting and that behavior, as far as that situation, that's like a deer in the headlights situation where it's considered unprofessional, honestly. So I think that we do need to make a motion to require her to take some professional conduct training. Possibly stress management or crisis management or something related to interpreting, maybe professional studies related to that. Maybe the board can help figure out what is best in that case, but that is what I would like to propose.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Obviously, this complaint requires quite a bit of action from the board. So I believe we should go into executive session. So we might ask our AAG further questions. So if you do not want to do that, I would accept a motion for a recommendation. Do I have one? Commissioner Scarborough.
So I propose that we go into executive session to get counsel from our AAG on the complaint regarding Margaret Barta.
All right, we have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the complaint against Margaret Barta. Do I have a second? Commissioner Madsen, seconds. So we will move to executive session. Kyla, would you mind moving us along?
I'm asking Kyla to come in this room to take minutes. I'm hoping she's here.
Sure, I can. You want me to go into executive session to take minutes?
Yeah, please
Okay.
do.
Will do.
If you could take minutes.
Kyla,
Hi, Commissioner. I'm going to get you into that room here shortly.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Carla?
Yeah, I'm going to get you into the room. Just give me just a second here. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And Tiffany too.
Can you try to join again? Because you should be in the room at this point. You're assigned to it. You're good? Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm in, Kyla. I see me highlighted right now.
Okay. We are back. Thank you everyone for your patience. Kyla, I want to make sure that everyone is here, and to make sure that we still have a quorum, will you please do roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Williams? Commissioner O'Rourke? Commissioner Bulmarkic? Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Madsen? Commissioner Venkatesh?
Here.
Commissioner Swenson? Commissioner Scarborough? And I think we're good. Sorry. Commissioner Bulmarkic did say that she's here, so I think we're good.
Great. Thank you, Kyla. Okay, Commissioner Cohen.
So based on our recent discussions in executive session, we do recognize this situation was very unfortunate and also very complicated. Because we have agreed to set up that ad hoc committee to do some investigation, we do have a plan for that. Therefore, I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion to dismiss this complaint.
Hi, sweetie. Okay. We have a motion on the floor to dismiss this complaint due to the complicated nature. And there are some individuals who made some mistakes, so we decided we would establish an ad hoc committee to improve the process based on feedback. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm seeing many hands. It's become quite popular. So, Kyla, could we have roll call, please?
All right, Commissioner O'Rourke? Commissioner Cohen? Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Bulmarkic? Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Madsen? Commissioner Venkatesh? Commissioner Swenson? Commissioner Scarborough? Commissioner Cinco? And one more time, we'll just try again for Commissioner Venkatesh.
Yes.
Perfect.
Great, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your patience. I know this case was very, very, very unique and very complex. I appreciate you all taking the time to discuss it thoroughly. And I hope that we can improve the process in the future. Next is the discussion for Tyree Howard. We have 2 complaints against this person. Victoria, would you mind?
So this complaint, there's 2 complaints, as you stated, against an unlicensed interpreter named Tyree Howard. The first complaint was from ACDHH staff, Cameo Hunsaker, who was in attendance at the meeting. I'm not going to review because we went over those details in the report that hopefully everyone read, and then Cameo gave her public comment, which was a summary of what happened at that particular meeting. We were able to investigate using the photo that Cameo provided and the interpreter's first and last name. We also confirmed with the requester, who is Donna McHenry, who works for Mercy Care, who was also filed the second complaint against Mr. Howard for the unethical behavior at the meeting, and also for the violating the Arizona interpreter licensure law and for not being certified. It is also good to note that a complaint was also filed with RAD, the registry of interpreters for the deaf. And so RAD received the same complaint, and they are going to move forward with the investigation process on their end as well, because they do, just reading the summary and what was submitted, do feel like this does need to be pursued and investigated to figure out what course can be taken. So with that being said, I will stop there. Are there any questions about these two complaints? Oh, and I do want to add, we have some members from the interpreting agency from which Mr. Howard was under contract when this event happened with Mercy Care. So they are here as well to answer any questions. Corby is the name of the company. And so we have a couple representatives here, again, in our Zoom meeting that can answer any questions that we may have. And I'm here as well. So please let me know what questions we have.
Thank you, Victoria. Does the board have any questions for Victoria? Victoria,
I apologize.
add something.
Yes, I apologize. I forgot to add my recommendation. It's in the reports that I made, but the recommendation is to send a letter to Mr. Howard to discontinue interpreting for Arizona consumers without an Arizona license from our AAG. Have that letter drafted from our AAG and to send to him. I apologize. And that's it.
I have a question. So, Corby, that is the agency that provided the interpreter?
Correct.
Okay. I do have a question for Corby. So, according to the state contract, it does require that all vendors provide Arizona licensed interpreters for Arizonians. So what is your vetting process for verifying that your providers are licensed and qualified for the work that they're doing in Arizona?
Hi, my name is Mike Adams. I'm
that you are paid to
General
cover.
Counsel.
And hello, good afternoon. My name is Carlos Valenzuela. I am from Corby. And first of all, I would like to thank the board members for allowing us to be here today to address this complaint. And we will be happy to answer any questions the board may have for us. So Ever since we received this escalation, we have made some changes to our overall process. So within our scheduling platform, now every interpreter, we have added additional credentials, one indicating that they are licensed, and the other one specifying the level or license type the interpreter has. So during our recruitment protocol, our recruitment team exclusively contacts interpreters listed in the ACDHH roster who hold the necessary license levels for medical settings.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. I have a question regarding the technology and what your process is to ensure that the interpreter are using the appropriate technology to avoid the incidents of freezing and disconnect.
Yes, so we use a scheduling platform. The name of it is called LSPware Atrium. So all interpreters are required to connect to these meetings. They're usually scheduled through Zoom, and they're required to connect to these meetings using a computer or desktop, laptop or desktop computer.
Does the board have any further questions? Commissioner Scarborough?
So in this situation, obviously the interpreter did not follow your expectations regarding technology. So how do you investigate to make sure that the contractors you hire are actually adhering to your expectations, those expectations that are required by the contract with the state?
So whenever it comes to that, we do some random quality checks. So sometimes we do join those scheduled video appointments with the interpreter just to make sure that they're following our guidelines.
Okay, so for all subcontractors, you do that?
Not for, it is random. We do it randomly.
Thank you. Any additional questions? It seems there aren't. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Williams, briefly.
I would like to ask a Corby, does your process for hiring interpreters include checking out their licensure? I don't mean to be snarky about that, but I think it would have to be part of your process.
Yes, it is. We do check their license. We add their licenses into their profile, and we include the expiration date, issue date, expiration date, and everything. That way we have better visibility to when those licenses are going to expire as well.
But in this case, it slipped through the cracks.
It was an oversight from one of our coordinators, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scarborough.
So related to this specific situation, this interpreter was not certified nor were they licensed. So I am curious then, what is your process when hiring a contracted interpreter? If they have no certification, how do you verify that they're qualified for the work? Do you have quality screeners on staff, or what are the requirements to even qualify to be confirmed that they are able to accept medical appointments without a certification?
This
Thank you.
interpreter, no problem. This interpreter is located in Florida, and as you may know, they do not require a license for interpreters there. So what we did is the interpreter sent us his university degree showing that he completed a university degree on American Sign Language. And I believe it is an associate's degree. And I do apologize, I forgot to answer the other part of your question. Currently, we do not have screeners. We used to have them, but they're not with us anymore. But this interpreter was hired back in 2021 when we had those screeners with a Corby.
Thank you. Are there any further questions before we move forward? It seems there are no more questions. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
So the board, I'd like to remind you, this requires a discussion before moving forward. If you have any now. It seems there's no discussion.
I just have a question. This is Debbie Venkatesh. So Victoria, could you read what your recommendations were for this, please? Thank you.
Sure. My recommendation is to send a letter to Mr. Howard that's drafted from our AAG that explains Arizona licensure law, and to cease interpreting for Arizona deaf consumers until he obtains a license, which is similar to what we've done in similar situations.
Thank you, Victoria. Do we have a motion on the floor? Sherry, do you have a question?
I have a question, multitasking, but I don't review the case because that's the board responsibility. I have a question for Victoria. So, Kobe, and I may say their name wrong, so forgive me if you're listening. But are they on state contract?
I don't believe, we just redid it, so I'm not sure. I can't answer 100% yes or no. because we just redid it in a couple months ago.
So they don't have a contract with DHS or any other agency in the state of Arizona you know of? Or we can ask them if
You
they're.
can ask them, yeah. I think there's still, Carlos is still here and some other members of their team. Oh, there's Mike.
Hello. I don't know the answer to that question. My name is Mike Adams. I'm general counsel for Propio, which is the parent company to Corby. And we can certainly find that out for you and follow up.
Okay. Oh. That would be a question I have. That's something that we can look into, because if they have any relationship with other state agency, then that comes up another problem, not in compliance with the state law. If they have a relationship with other state agencies providing interpreting services, which is why I brought that up. So, because I don't know that, but for some reason that name sounds familiar with Access, which is another state agency. If that's true, then that brings up more of a problem in compliance with Arizona law.
Thank you, Sherry. I saw Sukei's hand up. So I'd like for her to go ahead before.
I just wanted to let you know they are not on the current state contract.
Thank you for that confirmation, Suke. That answers my question. All right, we can move on from that.
Disregard my question. So, okay, thank you for that confirmation. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Commissioner Scarborough?
Yes, I was planning that stating that it was related to the state contract. If the agency doesn't have a state contract, then why is Access using that agency? Exactly, Sherry stated.
Yikes.
Yeah, the event happened in September 2023. I understand.
Yes, so did Corby have the state contract prior to July 1st of this year?
Oh yeah, and I'm not
I
certain
know
about
they
that.
just renewed. So that's another thing for the commission to investigate.
Yes.
Sherry says yes, exactly.
Okay.
Well, we will make a filing to investigate that.
Go ahead, Commissioner Scarborough.
So for the complaint that we're currently discussing, I move that we follow the recommendation from Victoria to send a letter to Mr. Howard asking him to discontinue interpreting for Arizonians until he becomes Arizona licensed. And Commissioner Cohen is seconding.
We have a motion for Victoria to recommend to send a letter to this interpreter to stop interpreting for any deaf members of the community requiring sign language services. And I see a second from Commissioner Cohen. Kyla, could we have a roll call for the vote?
Yes. Commissioner Scarborough? Commissioner Williams? Commissioner O'Rourke, Commissioner Swenson, Commissioner Venkatesh,
Yes.
Commissioner Madsen, Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Cohen, Commissioner Bullmarket, and then Commissioner Cinco. Did we miss Commissioner Williams, or was he first? Okay.
You just showed his approval. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, Mike, and the other gentleman's name, it escapes me. Oh, Carlos. Now, thank you for taking time to explain your company and what you do, especially regarding this case. We get a better idea of what happened. So we will have Victoria send a letter as more of a reminder on how we proceed here in the state of Arizona as a more of an informative type or educational moment for this interpreter. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you and good night. Okay, we do have 2 other complaints. However, we could move them. Sarah Campbell and the other that we should move to the next. Excuse me, Hillary was the other one. Hillary Adair and Sarah Campbell were the 2 other complaints we have regarding them. I think we could move them to the November board meeting because we don't have a lot of time left, but I would like to inform the board that that Commissioner Cohen has a hard stop at 8 o'clock tonight. He is a dad discipline issue to attend to, and so we completely understand. So when he jumps off, we can continue. We will still have a quorum, but Sherry would like to say something next. Now let's see, the next meeting would be the official elections is what I
Well,
believe we discussed.
I mean, yeah, officer is important, but I would like to really dig into the most important topic. It just seems like we just don't have enough time. In November, we're going to be really busy. But the other topic that, the board can always contact our office. So I would like to, real quickly, if we can have a formal discussion, approval of our 5-year plan, because that's required by the state, or just I can never say it right, SP, strategic plan, SP. That X is too much for me. And the budget decision, the 5-year plan is just required, is self-explanatory. Now that 5-year plan would be a great tool for the board to use for the next executive director's performance evaluation. It's just a formality. It's just a new template that our current Governor Hobbs administration created, which we really, really like it because it's very clear. So just real quickly, if the board can say, hey, it looks good, just we need a rubber stamp approval. And the budget decision, basically, as you said earlier, we're going to request more money for the SFP service. 2K is here to answer any question, and everything else can wait. If we could, because it's 8 o'clock, by the time 8 o'clock, people are ready to get off. So those 2 I would like to see happen.
Commissioner Scarborough.
And so I don't have a problem with the budget and the plan for that, but I do have one question regarding the strategic plan. So we reviewed the document and it was very clear, but there was one specific part related to language acquisition, that task force. And within that, it talked about developing a committee. It's like an advisory committee for DHS and ACDHH to partner with Eddie related to the funding for the state. So that committee, it says it will be 25% deaf, hard of hearing, and parents. So that means that it's possible that the rest of the population could be medical providers, like 75% of them could be. So I'm a little bit concerned about that number of only 25%, because that will include deaf, hard of hearing, and parents in just 25%. That's quite a small percentage. So can that number be revised? I mean, I think it might be 25 deaf, hard of hearing, and 25% parents. And then the 50% could be a variety of others. But honestly, I think that 50% is too high for the possibility of all of those medical providers and the like. So that's what often happens, honestly.
Right.
So yeah, the last advisory committee was huge, and the percentage of deaf involved was quite less. Deaf and hard of hearing and parents, it was like less than 25%. In the discussion, when the results of the discussion was obvious that they had a lesser impact. So what are your thoughts regarding the percentage? That's the only thing that I noticed and that I would like to discuss.
That's a very valid question. And Carmen, can you come up on the screen? Jennifer, I know that PB had, left the agency. He moved out of state. So we are in the process of filling the family services position. And I'm kind of like, that would Carmen administration with Rob Forex. So, and I know we submitted name to DHS, and the advisory board is like half of the size, much smaller. So can you clarify on the percentage and all that, Carmen, please?
That is the correct percentage that Commissioner Scarborough referenced. We can certainly share our concerns with DHS and talk about the possibility of making that change. I am not sure how much the feds impact that ratio, but we can certainly have that discussion and see what changes could potentially be made. But I certainly can't commit to it because we are not the lead as far as the grant portion is concerned, but I can certainly share these comments that were brought up and see what DHS, what their response is, and we'll be happy to share that with the board in our next meeting.
And thank you, Carmen. I can tell you that from the commission side, we feel strongly that we have more representatives of deaf and hard of hearing in different capacity, not just community members, could be teachers or professionals or parents. So we're advocating for, that representative. So, but Jennifer, you are correct. We believe in that. So we can answer that. But the DHS will have a final stay with the recommendation that we submitted. So we can report that back to the board to confirm what are those final lists, because we've not heard back from DHS. Am I correct, Carmen?
That is correct. The committee is not completely formed. We have been told, however, that the Eddie committee will be much smaller than what it was when it was operated by the Ear Foundation. So again, we can certainly share this concern that's been raised, and whatever the size of that committee is, look at those particular ratios to make sure there's proper representation.
Yeah, like one of the things that DHS wanted, Department of Health, that's DHS, so you know, one of the things that we saw a lot, well, DHS said the same thing from the previous stakeholders group, was we have too many representatives of one organization, so they want to have a more balanced, like Part C rep, parent rep, deaf community rep. They want to have a more balanced, not have so many of one group, but more of a balance of different representative. On top of that, deaf and hard of hearing, you know, that kind of thing. So we try to be mindful of the balance of the different areas of representatives, like ASDB, DES, DHS, community rep, parent, teacher or century, you know, area, teachers, you know, parent, educator, things like that. So we'll get back to you on that to confirm.
Commissioner Scarborough?
Great, thank you for that. It does seem that they are making the decision. Yes. And it's just a red flag to me. Because the way it is stated, 25% for parent and deaf or hard of hearing. It's possible we may not have any deaf because of how it's stated. So that's why I have the concern. Or, you know, you could change that. Maybe no parents would be involved. It could go either way. But we would satisfy that 25% because it says and. So that's my concern.
But I can tell you though, you know, based on our relationship, DHS really value our input and they support our recommendation. They support of the more representative deaf and hard of hearing. I know that they're we have a very positive relationship. So I feel optimistic, but you're right, Jennifer, you know, but one is we have to get these people to commit to serve, but from our agency, we share that same perspective as you do. And we come across like we want more of deaf and hard of hearing than the hearing and the various representatives, because that's the one beauty of this new grant partnership. Our agency will be leading the advisory council. We'll be leading that. That's a whole new ship. DHS won't be doing it. It'll be our office. So, but we'll get back to you on that when we hear from it. But you're right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry, did you want to continue with the budget decision?
What I need to do real quickly, if the board can approve our plan, understanding what Commissioner Scarborough just talked about, you know, and I mean, acknowledge her concern that we will follow up, but the plan is our 5-year plan. It's just part of the requirement that we have to do for budget for the state. I just want to make sure that the board sees it. I mean, we're not required to have an approval, but I would prefer the board to say, okay, yes, this is the framework that we're working with, because this will be a tool for the board will be using for the next executive director's performance. That will be a great performance measurement to use.
Thank you, Sherry. So would the board like to make a motion to approve the budget? Oh, I'm sorry. Strategic plan. All right, it's been a long night. I'm a little tired. So, does the board want to approve the strategic plan? I will accept a motion. Commissioner Paul Marsich.
Is it possible to approve the plan with the proviso that Commissioner Scarborough's concern be included as part of that motion? I mean, we can't.
We have to submit this plan. Okay, Nikki, come up on board, on screen, please. I think it's due September the 8th. Nikki, can you confirm when this plan is due? Is it at the same time as our budget? Nikki? There she is.
Hello, yes, September 1st, I believe.
Same time as budget, okay.
Yes, I'm using the Arizona budget system. So we are a non-compete agency. So that means that we need to submit through the various cabinet agencies to submit that process. All agencies need to do that, and we need to submit that non-compete. ABS is the system that is utilized for budgeting, and we use that as a non-compete agency. So we're still providing a strategic plan for the next 5 years, and it will be posted on all the agencies. It will be posted with all of the varying agencies with everyone's plan in place.
So basically, Sarah, to answer your question, is it connects with our budget and our plan, and then our statutory requirement. And language acquisition task force was one of the things that we were required to do by the legislators, which we've already completed. Now we're at the next phase of doing more of like the advisory board of the early intervention hearing screening program with Department of Health. So this plan and the budget kind of come together because that's how we submit our numbers. Part of it's just a whole system by the state agency, and this kind of a new template that had been never used all these years. We have another system called Buddies, BUDDIES. This is a different system, which I think it's a much better system. So Nikki had been driving force of this project because it's brand new, a new template process. So Nikki can answer your question more. So Nikki.
Clarify as well, there was an interpreter error. Non-cabinet. So that is different. So the cabinet means the larger agencies like DHS, DES, and the larger agencies. So there's other like 90 smaller agencies that we're a part of, and we're considered non-cabinet. So we do have different expectations, and you all have worked with some agencies as well, so you might be familiar with that. So there are various types of requirements for that, and we need to, of course, follow that process.
Okay, so approving a motion to approve the plan does not mean that the plan is set in stone. The plan as currently written with that 25% figure does not mean that the plan is set in stone if we approve a motion to approve it. Is that right?
hold on, my team is, who is it? Was it Carmen? Can you clarify that for me, or Nikki? It's not we don't decide that percentage. I know that for a fact. That is through the federal grant of the percentage that we partner with DHS. We don't have that authority. We're complying with the grant that we partner with Department of Health. That percentage did not come from us. Came from the grant.
And I'll add as well, that's what I will clarify. I'll share the concerns that, of course, the commission's expressed throughout our partnering with DHS, but I will double check to see if that number can be changed, or if it's something that the feds, that the HRSA Foundation organization, if they require that, or if they have it set in stone. But I'll get that answer for us.
Commissioner Scarborough?
Yeah, I think that really was my original thought, just the concern about 25%. And if that is federally mandated, of course we must comply. But if DHS, if it's their decision, then possibly it might not align with the federal regulation. So I would prefer to follow the federal regulations. And I believe they do clarify that. I haven't looked at it in a really long time, but I do believe that they do clarify that, who should be involved and participate. They may not have exact percentages, but they do point out particular members that need to be involved. And you could submit maybe that we're just following the federal grant. Would we do that?
I would think
possible?
that would be appropriate, Commissioner Scarborough. I can chat with Nikki, and we can see, we could get, that would be an easy change for us to make before we submit on September 3rd. We'd be able to do that easily. So we can make that accordingly.
So I move that we accept the strategic plan with the edit if needed. If it is not according to the federal compliance.
I have a motion to accept the strategic plan with the edit if necessary to align with federal regulations. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Venkatesh seconds.
I see many hands. Commissioner Venkatesh. Second, Kyla, can we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Commissioner O'Rourke? Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Bullmarket? Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Madsen? Commissioner Venkatesh?
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Swenson? Commissioner Scarborough? And then the last but not least, Commissioner Cinco.
The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Next is the budget decision. Suke, are you online?
I sure am.
The floor is yours.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Thought I hit the button. Sorry about that. What I'm asking from the board today is discussion and action on what we are proposing to submit for our budget for fiscal year 26. In our operating budget, we don't anticipate any changes from our current budget that has been approved for fiscal year 25. The only thing that we are asking for some flexibility with is, as Sherry mentioned before, we are asking for an increase from 192 to 375,000 for the SSP services. We are also going to be asking that that money, if unused, is not returned back, but stays in that coffer, so to speak. And that will be an annual request or an annual budget item that's outside of our regular budget, operating budget. It's coming from the same fund. It's not coming from the general fund. We are not asking for a new type of appropriation. It's the same appropriation we use for everything else. It comes from the telecommunication fund. That's the biggest budget package request that we are anticipating for this year. And so we are asking for your permission to move ahead with that budget package request as we see fit to support the deafblind community. I don't believe we will have any other budget package request at this point. Any questions? I'm open.
Does the board have any questions for Sue Kay? Commissioner Scarborough.
Yes, okay, thank you for your summarization of the budget. I do move to accept the budget for this current year, and thank you.
We have a motion to
Just for
approve.
clarification, it's for fiscal year 26.
Thank you. We will amend my statement there within the motion.
Of course. Okay,
To accept the budget for fiscal year 26.
we have a motion on the floor to accept the budget for the fiscal year 26. Do we have a second? Commissioner Madsen seconds it. So do we have a roll call for vote? We just do hands up. It seems unanimous. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Okay, if everyone would please turn your cameras off.
So my request, because it's getting late now, I know people are ready to get off. So, and those are the most important things to take care of. So thank you. And I know that the one thing that is the officer election, I don't know if we may not have time to do this, but we can deal with that in November. We can do that. Now the other thing is that the interpreter shortage report, we've already had 2 public presentation by Cameo, and it had been well received. She has done a phenomenal job. Hopefully you guys had the opportunity to watch the recording. But if you're okay, if you don't want that to be on the agenda for the next board meeting, hey, that's good. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. I'm just trying to save the board time because you've already seen the report and our engagement with the community. So if you're okay with that, we won't put that at the next board meeting. If you are, just contact me or Katie. We'll put that in the November because we're going to have a busy meeting in November. Other than that, everything else can wait.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. . . . . . . I think it is safe to say we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Most of the meeting items we've either taken care of or put on the next agenda. For the next board meeting, I'd like to thank everyone on the board and all of the members for staying until past 8 o'clock. I know you're tired, I know I am tired, and if you are like me, you're very hungry too. And I understand. Thank you for what you do for the deaf, hard of hearing and deafblind communities. Thank you so, so much. It is so very important. Thank you for your time. I appreciate each and every one of you. So, with that being said, I will accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Circles seem all of a sudden a lot easier for the horse because
Commissioner Scarborough.
I so move.
So we have a
Good
motion to
night.
adjourn the meeting. Do we have a second? I'll second it myself. So I'm ready to eat. All right. Okay, everyone is in agreement. Thank you. Have a